Paulie, we had a bunch of weather games this past weekend in the NFL. Looks like we're going to get at least a couple more this weekend in the NFL. And Kevin Roth does a great job tracking all this sports weather forecast for rotogrinders.com. And he's kind enough to join us here early on a Thursday morning. Kevin, good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat some sports and weather for you.
You bet. So the Texans, they were beefed up to a touchdown against the Jets. Now that number is down to 3.5. The total here is sitting at 33 or 33.5. That has dropped. Very low total, but it is 2023 where totals now like this are becoming more commonplace. How bad do you think the weather is going to be before, during, et cetera, for this game?
I think that's probably the worst weather game of the week. And that's not to say that this is some sort of consistent downpour, but I expect it's going to rain. I think light to moderate rain essentially all game long. And the winds are going to be an issue as well. So you're talking 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts of around 30. If it was just wet or just windy, it would be an impact. But when you bring in both of those main factors into one game, I think it's going to be kind of nasty, like the game that we saw in Foxborough last week or in New Jersey last week. The weather mattered, and I think this is a game where the weather is going to matter.
Okay, so that's going to be the worst of it. Jets at home, Giants at home. Will that be the case Monday night?
By the time the Giants game goes Monday night, the storm system has cleared. It will still be a little bit breezy on the back end of the system, but now you're talking dry conditions, winds of around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Does it matter? Sure, but it's not the kind of major impact that we're going to see for the Jets game. So right. I'm not taking any bets or placing any bets or recommending any bets on the weather for Monday Night Football.
Okay. All right. So another one in the Northeast. The Ravens are at home in Baltimore taking on the Rams. That total has dropped from 44.5 to 40. And I did see a couple of good questions on your going back and forth on X. And somebody was asking about how this could impact somebody like Justin Tucker. Very intelligent question, I thought, anyway. And so how bad does the weather look like in this game and how that could impact somebody like Tucker?
I do think that's probably the second worst game of the week. Again, it's the combination of I do expect we're going to see rain in that game. Latest forecast models are bringing the heaviest of the rain after the game, but still probably a light to moderate, fairly soaking rain throughout the game. And again, winds of around 15 miles per hour, not quite as windy as in New Jersey, but gusts 20 to 25. It's not the type of thing where they're not going to attempt field goals. But once you start talking about breezy, wet conditions and long field goals of 50 yards or longer, that becomes pretty tough. And that's when even you get fewer opportunities, right? Not only are you less likely to make that kick, but you're not moving the ball as well on offense, so you don't get as many opportunities to attempt those kinds of kicks. And if it's a 4th and 5 in that long field goal range, coaches might just opt to go for it or punt instead of attempting a low probability field goal in bad weather.
Yeah, great answer.
Yep,
great answer. How about the Midwest? We got Bears, Bengals, Browns at home. Has it changed at all? Is it just wind? Take it away.
Yeah, when I first looked at this on Monday, I thought that the Midwest might end up getting the worst of it. And now this system's accelerated, so the East Coast is going to get the worst. And the Midwest games look a little better. I'll start in Chicago. It's going to be dry. It's winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Temperatures are cold. It's upper 30s. But I don't really care about the temperature unless it's teens or 20s. Temperature in the 30s is fine. I don't expect any significant impact in Chicago. And I think it's similar in Cincinnati. The storm system's already gone, so we're dry in Cincinnati. It's cool. It's a little breezy, 10 to 15, not enough to have any impacts or make any bets on it.
Okay.
In Cleveland, I think there's a chance that system is still lingering. So you still have a chance for just some really, really light rain, and those winds could be gusting maybe 25. That's a borderline weather game. It's not as much as the East Coast games, but it's at least worth considering the weather factor there.
Yeah, and I think two of those there that you mentioned anyway, the Cleveland game and the Bears game, I thought those two maybe earlier in the week, right? It looked like it was going to be worse, but now that's drifted, as you said, to the other games in the Northeast.
Yeah, and I was guilty on this one. My usual thing is don't bet weather early because the weather changes. Weather forecast models on Monday are not always representative of what we see by Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I really thought the under in those two games looked pretty solid based on wind conditions and based on expected rain. And now I don't feel that way. So quite frankly, I kind of went against my own rule. I liked the unders early there, and I don't anymore because I think the weather is going to be pretty okay in those two spots.
And you know what, Kevin? The market would agree with you specifically, like on that Detroit-Chicago game. I mean, that opened 46.5. That got down to very low 40s. I think it touched like 40.5, maybe 41. And now it's back up to 43. A lot of shops are showing 43.5. I think based on what you just said, that number can probably keep going up.
Yeah, I think it can. And I just think it's a good lesson for everyone. If you want to get the best number, but it doesn't matter if you get the best number if the weather that you're trying to angle doesn't come to fruition. So I always like to say, hold off at least a few days, make sure that weather is happening. Monday was too early to be assuming what's going to happen on Sunday.
There's nothing in the forecast for tonight's game, right? Steelers at home to the Patriots.
Yeah, it's cold. Temperatures are in the upper 30s, but again, temperature only shows a really slight correlation between scoring and temperature, whereas wind, there's a massive correlation. If it's windy, it's low scoring. Temperature, you don't really get that impact. Of course, the total is barely anything as it stands, even in nice weather. So I don't think the weather is going to be the problem. I think it's the offenses.
You must have been in heaven last week, right? I mean, how many rain games did we have? 5, 6? A couple delays in the Pittsburgh game?
It was so fun. Yeah, we had the thunderstorms in the Pittsburgh game. We had the downpours in Tampa. Both the East Coast games were pretty good and soaked. I love late season games. This is when you get the best weather. You get you get sometimes not just rain, but you get the snow games. You get big winds with these cold fronts moving through. This is the most important time of the season for weather. And it's also when fantasy football playoffs are happening. So people are even more in tuned, whether you're sports betting or fantasy sports. So yeah, this is it's kind of Christmas for me, even a little bit early.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's the way football was meant to be played. You can follow Kevin on X. He's at Kevin Roth WX. Does a great job with sports weather forecasts at rotogrinders.com. Thanks so much for the time today. That was awesome.
Hey, thanks for having me. And of course, these forecasts are going to be evolving. So stay tuned, follow up, and I'm happy to jump back on a show anytime, guys.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.